Hi everybody, it's Robert Alaniz, and welcome to another Collecting the King show, episode 52. This show is about Elvis's mail order and compilation LPs, and God knows there's been plenty of those. I'd like to start off by kind of updating everybody as to what's been going on, because it's been a while since we've done a show, since Joe Tunzi was on the show. So just to give you an update, I've been kind of busy with quite a few things. 5 of my films that I had told you about before have been finally released on Amazon Prime. I also found out they're on Fandango, and they're also on some other odds and ends of streaming platforms. So if you haven't checked them out yet, there's Mind Over Mindy, Dinks, Double Income, No Kids, You Don't Say, which is kind of a controversial movie, and it wasn't really that controversial at the time when I made it, but being with everything that's happened lately about people wanting to be able to say what they really feel and not being restricted by other people, the movie really plays into that quite a bit. And I think it speaks louder now than it did when I made the film. So you may want to check that out. And then also Barrymore's Dream and Barrymore's Dream 2, The Vision, 2 horror films that I did. I've been kind of focused on seeing where those are and kind of working with the distributor just a little bit. So that's been taking up some of my time. Carol and I went to Memphis during Elvis week. And we were only there a couple days, but, you know, it was really great because we were able to see a lot of our old friends, and these are dealers that Carol and I have known for many, many years. But every time I go to Memphis, it's just amazing how everything has changed so much. You know, I remember how things were and how they are now, and there's such an incredible difference. And I feel sorry for younger people because I don't think they're going to get to experience the true love for Elvis Presley and the fandom that was around, 20, 30 years ago. And it's kind of sad in that regard. Graceland and Memphis and everything has become a little more commercial. I don't know if the emphasis is so much on Elvis anymore as it's on Elvis products and things of that nature. And so when I was there, one of the dealers I know, a friend of ours named Arnie Gainem, he had told me, if you're coming to Memphis, I got something for you. So when I got there, he gave me this box, and it had about 3 or 4 DVDs in it. What it was footage that was taken at the Holiday Inn, which was the very first show that Carol and I ever did. At the very beginning, when I became a dealer, I was there in 87. I visited in 87, but in 88, we actually set up. So there's actually footage of me and Carol and a lot of people like Paul Lichter and Neil Spencer and Gary Brown and all these different people. And it's like going back in time watching it. And there's like 3.5 hours. And I thought, you know what, this would make a great show. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of going through all that footage, and I'm using my filmmaking experience to try to put together some kind of a cohesive presentation for you guys, and I'm going to call it Elvis Week Now and Then. We went with our good friend Steve Orlando. We did take some footage when we were down there as well. And so I'm going to show some of that footage. Those of you, even the younger people who are watching the show and have not seen what it was like back then, in 88 and 89 and 90, the footage that I have, it just blows your mind with how different things are back then compared to how they are now. So that show is coming up in the future once I get all of that cut together. Also, I've been buying a lot of collections. Those of you who buy from me on eBay probably noticed I had a bunch of sealed albums and Follow That Dreams and Friday Musics and things like that. I'll continue to keep putting the stuff on eBay and stuff. And, of course, I do sell at shows. There are some shows I do, and I'll tell you what shows are coming up that we will be at. That's been taking up a lot of time, too, just kind of reviving my Elvis inventory. And I have got a lot. So again, I want to encourage collectors out there. I know you could buy from me on eBay, but if you want to just skip that and the whole bidding process, you could just check with me. Send me a want list or something, and I can go through it. I know a couple people have, and I respond if I have stuff. So, but if you want to send me a want list and say, hey, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I might very well have it here, because people are buying stuff on eBay, and I'm thinking, and I see the prices and everything, and they go real high, and I'm thinking, I got that for sale for like half of that. So, but if you don't know that I'm selling, then you don't know to check with me. So I'm just saying, when you get a chance, you should check. All right, let's get to the topic of the show. Let's start with the origin of mail order records. The birth of mail order records can be traced back to a mid-1940s interest in record clubs, and then solidified with the 1955 launch of the Columbia Record Club by CBS Records to market music directly to customers. The experimental division offered free records as a lure, proving direct mail marketing was an effective way to sell music, which led to its rapid growth and industry dominance by competitors like Columbia House and BMG Direct. At that time, RCA Victor announced that it had no plans whatsoever to start its own record club. Instead, in March of 1956, RCA initiated its Save On Records coupon booklet plan, entitling the holder to discounts and bonus records. And those of you Elvis collectors know that there is a Save On 45 that's very valuable, and this would explain what that whole Save On thing is and what the coupon that comes with it is all about. In 1958, RCA and the Book of the Month Club began operation of a popular record club. In the 70s, RCA licensed Elvis's recordings to different distributors, allowing them to offer records on TV or in magazines by mail order. The first of the TV offers was Elvis, a 2 LP set from Brookville Records from 1973 on an RCA mustard-colored label pressed on Dynaflex vinyl. Brookville Records would then follow that release with Elvis in Hollywood in 1976 on a blue RCA label. After Elvis's death in 1977, there were box sets that were released by mail order, some from Candlelight and some from Reader's Digest. And the rarest one, and most valuable and sought after, the Reader's Digest Commemorative album, which basically is just a white box, and on the cover it says Elvis with an exclamation mark and his greatest hits. Now this album was 8 LPs. It was re-released after that in 1978, and then also again in 1990 with a different cover, a picture of artwork from Elvis. That's the way it is, kind of a concert shot. The border of the box was yellow, but both of those were more common. And what was unusual is they went from 8 albums to 7. That one is very hard to find. I think I had it one time only, and I sold it kind of upwards of maybe $500, which is what it is in the book. But it is incredibly rare, and it is definitely very valuable. Now, these box sets became very, very popular and successful after Elvis died in the late 70s into the early 80s. What's interesting is most of these box sets would come with an exclusive bonus LP that would come either in the package or you would have to mail in for it. So I thought I'd mention some of those. One of them is called Elvis Sings Inspirational Favorites, which came out in 1983. And then there was Elvis Sings Country Favorites, which came out in 1984. And then Great Hits of 1956-57, which came out in 1987. It's not too hard to find those albums. So what's interesting is in the 60s, there really weren't any Elvis compilation LPs other than Gold Records, the Gold Records series, which at the time went up to Gold Records Volume 4. There was 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then, of course, Elvis Gold Records Volume 5, which came out in the 80s. So RCA didn't really get into the whole compilation thing of multiple Elvis Presley songs being available on one album. However, they sort of did in 1969 when they put out The Singer Presents Elvis Sings Flaming Star, which was a giveaway at the Singer Sewing Centers when the 68 comeback special aired, which was called the NBC TV special. Like, it's so funny because now everybody calls it the comeback special, and that's not what it was called. It was called Elvis, the NBC TV special. Well, that one did so well that they decided to add it to their Camden albums. They started releasing all of these Elvis compilations of different songs. Most of the songs were from unreleased Elvis material, either movie songs or just 45s that never made it onto an album. So I guess you can call the Camden albums the very first compilation albums that were put together by RCA. So as a result of the Colonel selling Elvis's record catalog to RCA, it became more fair game for compilation packages to be put together and distributed by other companies. The first Brookville album was 73, so that was right around the time they signed the contract. So that would all make sense. Then, of course, the biggest thing that happened as far as compilation albums go is they sold all of the Camden albums to Pickwick, or Pickwick got licensing for all the Camden albums. Pickwick then decided, well, you know what, since we have access to all these songs, we'll make our own albums up. And they came out with Double Dynamite, which came out in 1975, which is basically a two-record, greatest Camden record hits package, if you want to call it that. And that's the one with the cover where it's the same cover as Live at Madison Square Garden on the front. And then after Double Dynamite, for some odd reason, they put out Frankie and Johnny. But, of course, Frankie and Johnny was a deleted title, so I guess RCA just said, you know what, let's throw in the songs from Frankie and Johnny, and Pickwick said, okay, well, we'll make our own Frankie and Johnny album, which is really kind of stupid looking because it's a picture of Elvis in concert, and it says Elvis, Frankie and Johnny, and all the songs are movie songs. They have nothing to do with him being in concert. When Joe Tunzi was on the show, he had mentioned that the Pickwick album called Mahalo from Elvis. It was interesting when Joe said RCA was going to release it as their next Camden release after Separate Ways. I don't know what happened, but Pickwick used the most ugly picture of Elvis they could have possibly put on the cover of Mahalo. But I always found it interesting that all the songs were from Aloha from Hawaii, and those were all the songs that Elvis sang during the commercial breaks or right after the commercial breaks. So Pickwick did take that opportunity to do their own compilations here in the United States. Of course, overseas, my God, they did so many compilations. It was insane. By the 80s, Elvis compilation LP releases became the norm and would continue into the 2000s and beyond. Now it's getting to the point now where it's just compilations where they're just tweaking. They have ideas, and they're kind of going with like the Elvis Memphis album, which I know a lot of you out there heard that album and it was like cringing because of what they did. I mean, they actually went in and started manipulating the music. And I don't know, I'm sorry, but that album just didn't appeal to me. The new one is not as bad. I mean, the new one, Sunset Boulevard, they did remaster the recordings that were recorded for, I think, Elvis Today or whatever, but those recordings did sound better. I mean, at least they did the smart thing. They didn't go and change the originals and add instruments and alter instruments and add vocals that weren't intended. They just used the masters and made them better. And I think if you're going to go and do something like that, that's what you should do. Don't go and tweak and change everything just for the sake of a release. But unfortunately, I think that's where RCA is going. Let's talk about the rarest and most valuable mail order LPs. These two are RCA special products that RCA offered through the mail only. These did not come with box sets. But at one point in time, both of these albums were big dollar items. His songs of faith and inspiration. And I have a copy here. I'll show you. At one time, this was big bucks. This was an exclusive RCA Special Products album that you could only get through the mail. And it kind of came out in conjunction or not too long after. You'll look on the back here, Elvis 50 Years, 50 Hits. I think the 50 Years, 50 Hits came out first, and then and then they put this package together because it's all the gospel stuff. But this was really super rare at one time. Then another example of that would be this one here, which is absolutely the rarest of all the RCA special product releases. All right, this was also mail order, and I know you can't see it, but I'm pulling this stuff out of the black box over here. I just don't feel like putting the black box on the table and putting it back. But here is another album that was another super big dollar album. To this day, I still think it's worth $100. This one is sealed, but I remember the first time I ever had this and sold it, I got a lot of money for this album. This is the absolute rarest of all the RCA special products, and the reason this album is so valuable is because it came out in 1988, which was only 2 years before RCA stopped producing Elvis on vinyl. So that's one of the reasons it was so sought after. This also came out not too long after the 50 Years, 50 Hits album. That was a very big seller, by the way, that 50 Years, 50 Hits. That was also a mail order RCA special products. But because these two came out afterwards, the Songs of Faith and Inspiration and Good Rockin' Tonight, these ones were much more sought after because they didn't sell as big or as well as 50 Years, 50 Hits. Probably the rarest and most valuable box set bonus album is Elvis, His Songs of Inspiration. This was a bonus LP that came out with the Elvis Presley Story box set. It had the standard Elvis Special Products label, RCA on the top, and then Special Products was on the side. We actually found a dark gray label with silver print. RCA is bigger than usual, but there's no dog on the label. This is the only dogless LP on this 70s label. It was a candlelight release, but it was still an RCA label. So if you could find it, it's very unusual. But that is definitely the rarest of all of the bonus LPs that came with a box set. This one I'm sure everybody's seen hundreds of times, and this is the Country Music Time Life Records series. And this was a series that was available in supermarkets. I kid you not. I bought mine in a supermarket. I think my mom was shopping in a high-low food store. They don't even have those anymore. And it was on a rack. And there were other artists in this series like Dolly Parton and Waylon Jennings, and also came with a free book certificate for the wonderful world of country music. Just collect any 5 of these certificates from Time Life Records, country music albums, and we'll send you a big fact-based book absolutely free. So it was a mail order certificate that came with this. So if you're a collector and you do if you have this album, you might want to check and see if you have this coupon that goes inside. But I thought that was kind of neat, so I thought I'd show that to you. Okay, so basically to summarize this whole thing, I thought it would be interesting to talk about compilations and talk about some of these mail order albums. I know they're kind of common, but there are some that are worth collecting. In my collection, I pulled some of my favorites. As a matter of fact, what you see behind me, all of these are from my collection, and I thought they were worthwhile having. Either because of their limited production. I wanted the Brookville one because it was actually the first official RCA compilation that was available through mail order. After Elvis died, they re-released that album, and they took the cover that you see behind me here, and they shrunk it down to a little picture, put it in the corner. The album is blue, and they called it the Elvis Commemorative album, and it was on gold vinyl, and it came with a registration certificate that you could fill out, put your name on and everything, and make it like it's your official commemorative album, whatever. I recently found one. I was all excited because this cover is not the best cover. All these mail order covers are very thin, but I found one that was almost perfect condition, but it didn't have the stupid certificate. And I'm thinking, how many of these will I have to buy before I find a certificate that isn't signed? Because I think the one I found, it was signed by the person who bought the album. But anyway, if you find it, it's worth adding to your collection. It's 73. It's an RCA release, and it was the first mail order LP. So from a historic collector's standpoint, you might want to get that album. I did. before we wrap things up here, I wanted to go into the black box. And like I said, it's right next to me. You can't see it. You have to trust me. It's here. See, here's the lid. Okay. But it's so convenient. It's right here. It's so much easier for me to reach into. Here's some recent discoveries that I found that I thought, like I did with Elvis in Hollywood, when I found what I consider to be the reissue. Check this out. Here is, and a lot of people already know about this album, but I'm going to show it to you again. I think I might have brought it up before. Here is Elvis Sings for Children. Of course, probably one of the worst album ideas of all time. I am sorry, Joan Deary. I think this was her project. Very sorry, but this was pretty lame. It was such a weird album to come out after Elvis died. I just don't know why they did it. But anyway, this is the single pocket cover. All right? And as you can see, single pocket. And the bonus card is not attached. It's actually on the slick, on the back slick. Now, a lot of you know about this, and I think it's in the book for like $100 way back when. What it sells for now, I'm not sure, but it's definitely a hard one to find. Okay, so I was at a record show recently, and with Johnny B, and I found another one. Not this one. This one's actually mine. I found another one. And this one, and I know you can't tell, folks, this is a glossy cover, front and back. And I'm like, what the hell? I thought right away it was an import from another country because there's no glossy covers in 1978 when this came out. But I looked, and sure enough, the card is not there, and it's single pocket. And I checked the label, and here's where things get really interesting, okay? Well, first of all, let me say this. At the bottom, there's a number. It has an R143637. Johnny B, of course, said, well, that's the number, the official number for the record club release. We were working on the price guide, Jerry and I, when we first discovered that there was a single pocket. It was only logical that it had to have been a record club issue. But I don't ever remember seeing one with a number. This is the original, the one that I told you that I have in my collection. I believe this is a flat label, what's called a flat label, because there's no grooves in it, except for that little round groove in the middle. This is the pressing that I'm aware of. Now, let's open up the glossy cover one with the number in the back, and I believe that's a deep groove. Some of these grooves come in so many variations. I don't know what's a deep groove versus, I guess a flat means it doesn't have a groove at all. The question is now, where did these come from? Are they, from the same plant? I mean, of course, we looked on this thing to try to find what plant it was, but the markings are identical. So it's very strange. If this is the Indianapolis plant, which is what I believe where both of these were made, why would one be flat and why would one be deep groove? Obviously pressed at different times, although if this is a record club issue, it should have been pressed at the same time in 78. I don't know. I don't get it. Anyway, it was something I wanted to show you. Now, another thing I found, which I thought was interesting, is this album here. I just found this at a record show, too. Now, of course, you're going to look at this and go, okay, so what's the big deal? All right. Well, I got to say, this has gotten me going because I found it in a group of records, all right, of a group of reissues. Now, as you can tell, this is a original cover, and it's got the RCA and the dog on it and everything. So this is an original cover. But when I took it out, you know what that means. That's a 1976 LSP dog near top. I'm going to go back to what I said many times on the show. The factories used covers until they were out of covers. And that's the only thing I can think of, which would make this pretty unique when you think about it. Because as far as I know, we found original covers on orange, well, of course, orange rigids, but orange flexes, and I think even on tans. But this is the first time I've seen a 76 black label dog near top with an original cover. Just thought I'd show that to you. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, last but not least, we have another find, and this came, by the way, from the exact same group of records. Here is an RCA Raised on Rock, no big deal, APL1. Inside the inner sleeve is this inner sleeve, which everybody knows that means that it is a black label dog near top. Now, I did some research. I checked all the Presleyanas that I could find. I went on the internet. I went to different websites. A lot of you who are on ElvisRecords.com Facebook page are probably aware of the Elvis Now album, which was a 76 reissue that just went for like $600 or $700, which is absolutely totally ridiculous. Not doubting the rarity. But my thing is, if Elvis Now was pressed on a black dog near top, then other records like Good Times and Raised on Rock, the 70s albums that had that short run after the tan labels, does this have the same limited run? I mean, okay, so maybe you found this one a little more, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this didn't get pressed exactly the same time as Elvis Now, or very close to. I think that Good Times and Raised on Rock on this label, I think the time frame is short, just like the Elvis Now is short. But if you want to do some research, or if you have any comments about that, feel free to put them in the comments below. As you know, Joe Tunzi was here. The last time he was here, he had given me a copy of From Elvis Presley Boulevard to Chicago book that he was promoting on the show. He gave me a copy of this book to give away on the show. So we're going to do the same thing as we did last time. If you're interested in being a part of the drawing, which we will have on the next show, send your name to collectingtheking@gmail.com and just put in the note that you want to be included in the drawing for the Joe Tunzi book. And thank you, Joe, for giving us this book to give away on the show. Like I told everybody, I do record shows, right? Been doing that a lot. I don't always do exclusively Elvis, but there are a couple shows coming up that I want to mention that Carol and I and Johnny B will be at, where I do have Elvis stuff, and I plan to bring maybe a little more Elvis stuff because I'm going to be promoting it on the show. And I know there's one viewer that goes to Chicago, and I see him all the time, and he watches the show all the time and checks out my Elvis stuff. But you know, because of table space and stuff, I'm usually limited on what I could bring. But I plan to bring more Elvis stuff and some of the rarer stuff that I have in my inventory. We're going to be at the Chicagoland Record CD Collectors Show on Sunday, November 23rd, at the Countryside Banquet and Conference Center in Countryside, Illinois, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., and that's going to be on November 23rd. Then the following weekend, we're going to be at the Northwest Indiana Record and Music Fair on Saturday, November 29th at the St. Mary Hildebrandt Hall in Griffith, Indiana from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you're within that area or driving distance and you'd like to come and meet us in person, Johnny B will be there to sign T-shirts and to sign your arm, and women, if you want your breasts signed, Johnny B will be more than happy to sign one of your breasts. Anyway, are you kidding? Johnny would faint. Can you imagine somebody, Carol, coming up to him and going, "Could you sign my breast, John?" John would like faint. He would just faint. Anyway, just having fun. So we'll be at both of these record shows. And I'll be letting you know in the future of any upcoming shows, every time we do a show, that we will be at. And I will have records, Elvis stuff there. Thank God, after my surgery, I'm still doing a lot of stuff. My movies and selling on eBay, and then doing the shows and hunting down records. If you follow me on eBay, thank you for being a follower. And thank you for buying. Just bear with me as far as getting the stuff out. I know eBay has rules that if you win an item, you have to get it out by a certain time. And I do my very, very best to get out the stuff on time, and I do my very best to add new stuff as often as I possibly can. Make sure that you always press the like button if you like the show. Subscribe to the channel, especially if you like the show. Hit the bell so we can let you know about all upcoming shows. Carol, is there anything you want to say? She's just sitting back there. You know, the thing about Carol is she says stuff when she's not supposed to say stuff. But then I ask her to say stuff, and she goes, I don't know.
I like our new Stitch.
Oh, that's right. I have an addition to the show. All right. Of course, everybody knows Nipper. But when we were in Memphis, we picked up Stitch. And he's got his little Elvis cape on. Look at it. Little jumpsuit there. So now we've got Nipper and Stitch. The past and the future. Right here. All right, folks. Thank you again for everything. I am Robert Alaniz, and I'm out of here.